Hey guys, welcome back. It's Grimreaper coming at you from another video of Raidshadowlegends. Hopefully you're doing well, and hopefully you're looking after yourself. Damn, it's Grimsy's news time. It's time to go over all the news dropping in Raidshadowlegends, and there is a lot to talk about in today's video. So I'm going to go over everything. If you like long videos, if you want to know what my personal thoughts is of this new content, from what we know from today is going to cover everything. There has been a lot of update on social media and content creators. Obviously, I'm not going to do news videos every day. I don't really make news videos, but I will make one when the topic is good enough to make. And there is a new mythical coming to Raidshadowlegends with the Grim Forest content, which obviously is named after your one and truly Grims. So obviously, I'm sponsoring the Grim's Forest and whatnot. They forgot the payment, but they will send it. Anyway, jokes aside, let's go and cover everything. So I'm going to go over everything and my personal thoughts. We'll start off with the new champion because that is why you would have clicked on this video for today's video, and I'll give you my personal thoughts. Now, from the art, this guy obviously looks like a lizard man, and I think he looks absolutely fantastic. So these are the two forms. Now, does lizard man need a mythical? That's a different one. Most likely you'll get this mythical before you'll get hard faction mythical, so potentially it can be quite useful there. But today we'll go over his kit and we'll see, will he be matching Empress on that side, or will he be matching the mythical that was released in hard faction wars, which badly needs a buff. Obviously we'll get this mythical a lot faster than most people. As you guys know, I push pretty hard. So this is the kit. In his base form, he's a defense-based champion. In the second form, he is a HP-based champion. So good starting point there for me. We'll start with the passives and we'll work up the kit. Guys, let me know what you think down in the comments of this new champion. Are you looking forward to getting this new champion? Obviously, getting mythicals are always nice. This is becoming 5th mythical champion now. That you'll be able to collect, even if it may take you 2 years for sure to go over. So let's have a little look at his kit. So if I say anything wrong, by the way, I am dyslexic, so if I misread anything, I do apologize and whatnot. So he has an aura in the all battles by 70%. Sorry, 35%. So 70% would be crazy, right? By 35%, which is pretty average. I think Maris is also there. So the passive, each time this champion hits an enemy under leech debuff, increases this champion's defense and HP by 5%, stacks up to 50%. That's a pretty nice passive. When attacks by enemies, those attack is higher than or equal to their defense, has a 100% chance to place a decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. And when attacked, enemies with higher defense then their base attack has a 100% chance of putting a decreased defense on debuff for 2 turns. When attacks by enemies under a leech debuff has a 50% chance of placing a provoke for 1 turn. It's a pretty cool passive. However, it's a little bit lackluster for a mythical when you compare them to champions like Carnage and Empress. And the reason why we're comparing them against these is because these are champions that you can get quite easily, and obviously Carnage will be easier to get than this guy. This guy is not going to be easy to get for most of you players. Let's start with the 3 then. All consuming raw. Attacks all enemies, AoE, Maiden. Places a leech debuff for 2 turns and a provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Places a counter attack on a champion for 2 turns. Interesting ability for P vs E, Sile. You know, it depends on how hard he hits, but he doesn't bring increased defense, which for a mythical right now, you kind of want to see increase defense. Like you got Ashnar and Alaz that can increase their own defense, which obviously is a bonus because you don't need to bring an increased defense champion for his damage. Attack all enemies, heals all allies by 50% of this champion's max HP. The value of the heal increases by 5% for each leech debuff on the enemy. If the enemy receives a surplus heal, places a shield on a champion for 2 turns. The value of the shield is equivalent to 50% of the surplus heal. Stacks up to 30% of this champion's max HP. Interesting ability. I can imagine this ability won't be hitting that hard, but he can definitely be a little bit better for sure. So it's a little bit underwhelming as a mythical. Attack one enemy. Heals all allies by 5% of the max HP. Heals all allies by additional 5% of the max HP if this champion attacks a target under a leech debuff. Interested. Very leech and provoke. It's basically a Hydra kit, basically, but if I'm being honest, a bit outdated as a Hydra kit, a little bit, because you kind of want more now. There is legendaries that do a bit more than this. He hits like a truck. This would be a different question. He's a spirit affinity, of course, so he's also a interesting affinity. All right, let's have a look on his second form, and hopefully his second form is a bit better. So then we have Rage Nectarus. This is going to be his HP side, and this will be his second form, okay? Attack, it will ignore 50% of the target defense if the target's HP is lower than his champion. I mean, that's a good start, right? It's a little bit subjective with the HP, but he's HP based, so he's going to have very good HP. Obviously, don't know his base stats and whatnot, so that's going to be quite important. A level 1 blessing as well is easier to get than level 5, which will give you another 10,500 HP on him. Obviously, you can only get the blessing once you claim this champion, right? We'll also ignore additional 50% of the target defense if they're under leech debuff. So it's a 30% ignore defense if the HP is lower, which is great for P vs P, but for P vs E, the HP is not going to be lower, right? Because they got thousands. So you only get additional 15 ignore defense if they're under leech, which is kind of interesting. You'll need a pair of leech champion for sure. We're all kind of thinking Negmo, right? Which is the same faction. Every third skill this champion uses will attack all enemies instead. Interesting. This champion joins every third attacking skill used by allies. This skill will be this champion will use a default skill when attacking in a skill. It's an interesting one. I kind of like the passive. The passive is really strong, so it's kind of interesting. Let's see what the rest of the kit has. Then we have Soul Serpent. Or attack one enemy before attacking, places an increase critical damage buff on all allies for 2 turns. Okay, bit of extra damage is good. Steals 50% of the target's turn meter. Steals 100% of the target turn meter instead if the HP is lower than a champion. Unfortunately, you will have to build accuracy for this, which is going to suck because it's non-resistible. Destroys the max HP by 25, or destroys 50% of max HP if this lowers this champion. Now, if this hits hard enough, this could be a big counter to Empress, because 1, he's Spirit Affinity, 2 is a destroyed max HP ability. So what happened is, if you destroy the max HP of Empress on a second form, that lowers his damage quite a lot, because obviously it's scaled off HP. It's the same with other HP champions like King Narcissus, for example. It's going to be the same issue. I think the only one that this wouldn't work on out of all the top HP nukers is Taurus. I think that's the only one it wouldn't work on. Let me know down in the comments. Anyway, on the E2, Frenzy Execution. We attack one enemy. We ignore Stone Skin buffs. If this champion, the damage inflicted by the skill is increased by 50 if the target's HP is lower than his champion. Resets the cooldown of the skill if the target's killed. I like it. It's like a He-Man ability, which is good, but the problem is a reaction. The problem is of this new set and whatnot, which is not really going to be that useful, but it's going to be interesting. Doesn't ignore shield, doesn't ignore block damage. It's a little bit lackluster, I guess. Attacks one enemy. Places a block buffs on his champion for 2 turns. This debuff cannot be resisted if their target's HP is lower than its champion. Okay, right. So first of all, I'll be honest, right? I already read this champion's kit, and I think he's a bit lackluster. For a mythical, it's gonna be so hard to get. He's gonna be probably the second hardest mythical to get. I think the hardest one will be the Factual Wars hard mode, because not many people will be motivating. Now, this is bad, right? Because he's got single target damage, and if you guys are not aware already, the new set literally counters single target damage, which is bad for champions like Rhodas and whatnot. It's really, really bad, right? So you know, like that kind of counters him already. He's not even being released. His damage is locked behind like leech, or if the HP is higher and whatnot. And he's just not a good affinity as well. Like HP base, you know, you want him to be force, so you want him to be magic, ideally, which is what you kind of want to be seeing from this. So overall, it's not a very good mythical on paper. Now I say on paper because he might hit extremely hard, and if he hits extremely hard, that might change my perspective on how it looks. But this is how I'm just reading this on the kit. Now the passive on the second form looks really, really nice, and that needs to be tested because this could make the champion from C tier to A tier for sure if he hits hard enough. But the problem is, again, the new set, there's champions already in his faction like Lazarus, who I would prefer more than him because I don't feel like he's adding a lot to the kit. So, you know, this guy is going to cost you like 10 bucks more or less. I haven't really checked how many books he needs, so don't mistake me on it, but normally they're 10 bucks. It is 10 bucks. And mythical books are really, really hard to get or expensive to buy. So, I don't know. I think he kind of sits in the vault right now. Anyone that gets this guy will be, yeah, very interesting. He looks really, really cool, though. Like, his kit, look, his his art is absolutely amazing. But he does suck, which is bad because it does bring a big downer. Everyone's grinding as content for me one purpose: new mythical, new S tier mythical. If the mythical is bad, people won't want to play as content. I bring negativity to this content. I mean, look at Hard Factual Wars has just been released like 6 months, 9 months ago, whatever. And people are not pushing to clear it against stage 21, and they stop at stage 21 and farming. Some of the best content creators in this game will even tell you it's not worth it. Right? I beat Factual Wars because I didn't want to have to deal with this and Factual Wars, but I just don't see how this works, right? So it's very, very interesting kit. He's not really doing much for any other content. His kit is very basic. He hasn't got much going on for Chimera. He's got a couple of trials in him, but there's legendaries that do that already. And it's a little bit disappointing from what I'm seeing. But if he hits like a truck, that might be a different story. We still don't know the full works if we get a 5-star blessing for him or 6-star blessing for him like we did with Carnage, which I doubt that will happen. But if we do, then that could obviously up his value even more because obviously blessings does make a big difference. But you have Carnage as damage dealer free. You have Empress as damage dealer free. You have Marius is a damage dealer, it's free. So we have another damage dealer added on, and he's going to be underperforming compared to the ones that are free. Does he make people's rosters? Does he make people's books? I can't really sell him on that. I'm not going to try and sell him, if I'm being honest. Anyway, we're going to go over everything else now. I'm just going to get some water, and then we'll cover everything else as well. Right, okay, so we're going to go over everything that's been talked about the last few days. We're going to talk about it now. So there is a new artifact coming with the Green Forest. It looks very, like, from the look of it, looks really, really cool. Really cool. And how it's going to work is a 9p set, 4p set, and a 6p set. You get resistance, HP, and whatnot. It's very interesting, but with Grim's Forest, it's a total guard buff. And it basically, how this does, the total guard buff will block any inconsistent damage, which is single damage dealers. All stat effects that our champions receive from an enemy skill. So this champion can receive multiple stacks of total guard buff. Each total guardian stack will ignore a single instant of damage from an enemy skill. Will ignore also block any associated effects such as debuffs, including guaranteed and unresistible debuffs, destroyed max HP, equal HP effect, swap HP effects, debuff spreads, decrease or duration, the turn meter effects, instantly activates the poison or HP burn, debuffs, and polymorph debuff as well. As long as this champion has at least one total guard stack, it will be immune to all negative effects, except increased cooldowns, even from skills that do not inflict damage. A champion will lose a stack of total guard whenever they take damage from another champion skill. The damage increases taken via ally protection buffs and reflection damage buffs, as well as passive skills that share the reflect damage. Champion will not lose a stack of total guard when they take damage from masteries, blessings, or relics. So you have to take it into consideration. If a champion is under both total guard and block debuff when receiving damage from an enemy skill, they will lose its total stack guard, and if the champion takes damage from that, reduces it down to 0 by another champion's passive, they will lose a stack of total guard. This is going to be bugged. I'm going to tell you now, this is going to be bugged. Also, all bosses are immune, will ignore total guard buff. So this buff is only good for P vs P, and this buff is only good for P vs E wave based clear. So fracture wars, clearing waves and whatnot. Right? Is it interesting set? I guess they make sure bosses don't do it because it would counter bosses too hard and cause a lot of issues and whatnot. Now, this is a funny set because let's take in Almads for example. A lot of people use Almads because he's a free-to-play champion. He was a future champion like 2 years ago. So as long as you've been playing the game, you're probably using Almads regularly, or using Fabian regularly and whatnot. Now, Almads will use 2 stacks. And the reason why he'll use 2 stacks is 1, he'll place a stun first, and then he'll steal your turn meter. So that's 2 guard stacks, if I'm understanding this correctly. So Almads is going to really struggle with this new set, especially if you have a support champion with 3 guard stacks. Now let's take Marius for example. If you have full team with this 9p set, and obviously you wouldn't have a full team because damage sealers, but if you did, then obviously Marius is going to really struggle against this. Now Marius already struggles with bolster set. So I think if you stack this with a champion, one support champion, and then sneak in a bolster set as well, Marius could really struggle. And that may be a good thing or bad thing depending on how you look at situations. Empress is also going to struggle with this new set as well. So it's an interesting one for sure, and it's going to be a very strong set. If not, this is going to be breaking the meta and cause a new meta for sure for everyone involved. Now, a lot of you guys won't see the set for a very long time, but people that play top end arena like myself will start seeing this probably within 2 months or so of the release of the Grim's Forest. So probably by February you'll start seeing people running around with this in P vs E content, sorry, P vs P. I'm not too sure if I like the look of this personally. I will say obviously I'll adapt, but this could be something that hurts Commodus, for example, Sulfurion as well, for example. Champions like Gizmak as well could be affected by this. I think Gizmak will be fine, but I think Sulfurion and whatnot will suffer really bad. The value of Fabian's gone up, and the value of Catrixia has gone up as well, because mythicals with this is going to be really hard to deal with. So putting our skills on cooldown might actually help you. and yeah, whatnot. So it's going to definitely be an interesting one. All right, we're going to go over the rest of the content. So as you can see here, we have the starting pools. So for normal, you'll get the 10 debuffs and whatnot, which is cool. And then, for 10 champions per team. And then for hard, you'll get 20 champions it is. So what you'll do is you'll build your 2 rosters, your 2 decks. Now you need to make sure that you're building your decks as equal as possible, because they will force you to use one deck over another deck, and they get random champions from your deck. So you need to make sure you have a well-balanced deck in both of them. And obviously, if you have mythicals, the first thing you should be taking in this content for 90% is your mythical champions, which is a good start. And the reason why I say this is because generally a lot of mythicals offer a lot of support and a versatility more than legendaries, I guess. So that is one thing. Obviously, champions like Marius, Carnage, you know, they're going to be your first names before Life Bane potentially on there, depending on your rosters as well. I haven't looked at my account too much, but you will want a mix of damage dealers, support champions, maybe some crowd controls, revivers, cleansers, maybe even like 1 or 2 ally attack champions as well. So just think about these things. You know, if you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it in stream. Champions like Androck, for example. Androck is a really good support champion on his base form, and in his second form he can strip enemy max HP, put up a feeble as well for wave base, which is amazing. So there's a lot of options for sure across the board for everyone across the board for this. So it's going to be interesting for sure. We're going to cover some rewards now, right? So, you know, as we can see, they put on a social media, you know, silver chest, trying to get people hyped. What does everyone want? Silver. Good job, Raid. Why did we not put energy here? Right? Why did we not put energy here? Medium chest, circle gemstones. You know, people won't be too bothered about circle gemstones, but if you're an in-game account, we want the triangles. We want not the pentagon really, but the square ones and whatnot. So we want some idea, because the only place we can get from is finishing in first or second in Chimera Clash, and even then they're very, very hard to get. You can get 1 or 2 from one-off rewards as well from Faction Wars. Again, mythical gemstones outside circle is really, really hard, and even get mythical gemstones as well circular are really, really difficult. But this isn't a way to get a boss layer gemstone for sure. So the large chest will have the materials. Obviously, there'll probably be other things inside these chest types as well that will mix up the RNG. So, like, for example, if you always get a medium chest, they're not going to be dropping all sorts of gemstones. They'll have other things in there as well to kind of add a bit of RNG to the aspect, and that might be fine for sure. But, you know, we are going to get the legendary. This is legendary because it's orange in the large chest. So it'll be interesting to see if we can get mythical mats in this as well. We should be able to, but we won't be getting much. You'll probably see like 10 or 15 stuff from this new content for sure. Anyway, let's have a look at the map. And this was in the game yesterday, and this was something you can kind of see. You got some energy, you know, you've got some chests, you've got the Queen of Hearts, Spot, Elderscar. There's one of your chests potentially that you're gonna be able to take on. Footstep, which I guess could be like a trap or whatnot as a fight. And yeah, you can't see much on the map, but you can see a few things, etc. And yeah, it's looking a bit interesting, right? But the reason why I pulled this up is because obviously we see remnants. Now remnants is only additionally found in Curse City, and it's a remnants that if you're farming Curse City and whatnot. Now I've got 3 mythicals, but I cleared every single rotation from remnants, and I've got 3 mythicals. You have a 0.25% chance. Now most people don't actually realize there is a mercy system for the Curse City remnants. So after summon 24 without receiving a mythical champion, the mercy system will be activated and will be summoned without getting mythical champion. Now, you know, it's 2 years before this content's dropped, before your mercy even starts. It's going to get a little bit better. So I expect you'll probably see like this will be like 5 or 10 for beating the Outscar stage, and then most likely you'll be able to require some more throughout the content. But when you beat the big boss, you'll probably get 1 full summon, and then you'll pick up another summon. I probably would see 2 summons. I hope we see 3 summons for this content, or 4. What I'd like to see is like 3 in the Grim's Forest and then 1 in normal, and just giving 1 in normal so people had some type of stuff. And these remnants, you know, they don't normally drop mythicals and whatnot, but they're still okay for fusions. You know, 350 points each for each one. They can give you some CC points as well, CVC points. I always keep mine for fusions, and then I summon them when I need to, because you can use other stuff as well to help with events and save some shards, especially when their progressive events are really, really bad, which is 99% of the time. And obviously energy is always welcome. You can see here M9, M85. So, you know, it's going up to 85 already. So it's going to be a very long content, more or less. Will be interesting to see now. We should get some more footage in about 3 days, more or less. This is what the time is for, in case you didn't know what that time is for. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to see some of the rewards. Now let's go over the relics and whatnot. I think the relics is probably the last thing in the bosses. It's becoming a very long video, so let's smooth on the go. So we have to work on the relics. So first of all, like rare and epic, very easy to get because you'll probably get them from normal. So there will be a big factor. Now, I'm not going to try and pronounce the names because it's going to be really hard for me to do that. But whereas, so the first one, the rare has 20% chance, and then it goes up to a 50% chance of ignoring 5% of target defense when attacking. Strong for a rare relic. Obviously, we don't have stats and we don't have gemstones, but it's like stats and gemstones could have a big factor and how good or bad that this is as well. So this has potential to be a really good relic as a rare, but it's not still in the top 3 for rare, but I think it could make the top 5. Needs to be tested for sure to see and how much big difference it makes. Could be cool just to throw it on some factual champions, just to get a bit more damage on bosses and whatnot, just so you can put them on damage dealers. Are very cheap as well to move around, so that could be a interesting thing. Then the wearer has a 20% chance of ignoring 10% of the target's resistance when applying debuffs. So that goes up to a 50% chance. Now, first of all, no one's going to fully upgrade these unless they're like super Kraken, or probably maybe a content creator if they want to test it. Personally, I won't be doing myself because it's very hard to get that stuff. But yeah, it's an interesting relic. I think it's a weaker one out of the 2. But it seems to be okay. It seems to be pretty solid. Maybe it'll help a little bit. Again, if it has accuracy main stat and whatnot, which would be pretty solid. Then we have the epic relics. Whenever this wearer receives damage, has a 20% chance of healing themselves of the total damage received. So a boss will take the turn, do so much damage, and you'll heal 20%. I think this is a really strong relic for soloing content and whatnot for damage dealers. And then I think for tanky champions, you're going to be using golden elixir. Again, you might want to test the 2, see which one's better. Again, we don't know the stats and whatnot of this, but this will be increased to a 50% chance as well when the boss is doing it to get a heal 20%. So this effect here will help the green and not this one here, just in case you guys were trying to think about that. It's a really strong relic for epic. Then we have the second one. Whenever the wearer is under crowd control debuffs, stun, sleep, freeze, sheep, whatever, other than lockout, that this would work. Block type skills as well, right? All turn meter effects will be increased on the wearer by additional 20%. Now this could be a good gemstone, sorry, good relic on like champions like Fabian, for example, who can cleanse herself. However, I think it's still going to struggle a little bit. Again, if it's accuracy main stat, gem circles, circle gemstones, that'll be a very good relic. But maybe early game and mid game, I don't see it being used towards in game. And I still think that like things like wand is going to be much stronger for sure across the board. Right, so then we have the legendary ones. We have the Soul, Mars, Crystal. Once per round, where it has 50% chance of activating, 100% chance once fully upgraded effect of one or more allies are killed. So you come in, Sigford nukes your team. This champion happens to survive a reviver, Duchess. She eats a turn and she can revive the whole team. Cuts in, breaks the speed tune and whatnot. This is going to be really strong with a new set. It's going to be a really problem for a lot of people. You know, you're stacking the new set against a Marius. Marius kills the whole team. Duchess comes back alive with this new set. Marius can't touch her, right? Can't damage her or whatnot. It just revives the whole team. A really, really good relic. I think this is probably going to be the second or the third best legendary relic in PvP. It's going to be very powerful in PvE content as well. So I'm a really big fan of this relic. It's going to be super powerful, and this is what you're going to want to keep. Ideally, if it's got speed, defense, and resistance, or HP, it's going to be really strong and needs to have 2 circle gemstones as well. If it does have 2 circle gemstones, this is going to be a very good one, because you can stack the ignore defense gem slots on this for sure. It's going to be crazy. Then we have the rod. The rod has the wearer as placing poison or bomb debuffs, has a 10% chance, 35 once done, of placing a second debuff for 2 turns. Only counts to debuffs placed by the active skills. It's interesting, right? Poisons is not really going to do anything. There's still better poison relics in the game that I don't feel like you would use this over unless there's something we're not aware of. But for bomb champions, for like Nishak and Commodus, it could be an interesting one, because it would be good to kind of see and how they're going to deal with this new set. And this could be something that saves them in this meta, because I don't want to see bomb champions and whatnot like completely thrown out again just so become useless. Like, bomb champions are only really good in arena, and I don't want to see the end of their reign. Obviously, they're very strong champions. There is counters out there, and this could be a good thing for the meta or could be a bad thing for the meta. I think it's very hard to say if this gemstone, if this relic is going to be very good, because it could easily really underperform with the new set. It needs to be tested and whatnot. The new set could be underwhelming as well. But on paper, like right now, it's not looking good for bombs and burns and whatnot. And you're talking to a player that does this on a daily basis. I use these type of strategies across the board, so I play this strategy a lot, and I kind of understand this better than other content creators for sure. And that's not to shit on anyone or whatnot. It's just like when you're talking from experience and then talking about how you see stuff, it's a bit different. All right. This needs to have accuracy and attack as main stats, and speed, and ideally circle gemstones. So you could put in the bomb gemstone to increase bombs damage by 10%, or the epic one, which is destruction, which allows you to ignore 5% ignore 5%. Again, one submission could still be better, but I think there's going to be a challenge for sure. This one very strong though. And then we have the Cornet of Gleam. This is going to be one of the 2 mythical gems relics. When all of the wearers when all of the wearer's allies are dead, places a block damage debuff for 1 turn and has a 10% chance of placing this buff on a single ally. Placing this buff on a single ally dies. It's an interesting one because it goes up to 35%. There isn't no turn meter or anything like that on it, so I don't think that this relic is going to be as powerful as this one. Because I kind of see where I would put the mythical, I would put this. And I think I'd rather have the instant turn. because there's no counter to instant turn, right? So for me, on paper, this one's not looking as strong. So, you know, again, it needs to be tested. Most likely it will be stronger, some mythical gemstone. It wouldn't surprise me if it's just got speed and is like built for, well, put on champions like Arbiter and whatnot, for example. The lens of whatever. Now, this gemstone, this relic, sorry, this is gonna be something. This is top 3 mythical relic in the game, for sure. The wearer has 10% chance of placing, the wearer ignores 10% of the target defense. Amazing. At the start of the round, places a perfect fail, so you're giving me extra damage, but now you're also giving me a perfect fail to help with survivability because it can't be targeted. You can't target that champion unless there's AoE or it's going stripped or whatnot. On a wearer for 2 turns. Whilst under a veil, perfect veil, the wearer increases additional 5%. Wow. So it's 15% ignore defense. Ideally, I think it'd be attack, critical damage, and defense here. It's basically an upgraded version of a cat gaze with some survivability added in, which is kind of cool. You obviously will want to pair this with veiled champions and whatnot, like Duchess and etc. for like Chimera, and for Chimera and what's it called? Hydra. And yeah, it's gonna be really good. Now this effect goes up to 30%, but this will be right. So it's like 5, 10, so 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Yeah, so it's ignore 30%, whereas on the veils, and when you're not on the veils, it's 10%, right? It's really, really strong. This is going to be really good. Ideally, we want this to have triangle and circular gemstone slots as well. And if it does, that will push the value even higher. I think the only relic you want more than this outside the event relics is the Dreaded Bomb, which is from the Forge Pass side, right? A really, really crazy relic. Then we have the boss. So we have 2 new bosses. We have 7 in total. This is kind of looking interesting. Yeah, so attacks on enemies. Well, let's start with this champion's kit, right? Wow, there's a lot going on here. It will attack all enemies. There's 50% chance of stealing 1 random buff from each ally. Obviously, you can use resistance and 9-piece protection to counter this, right? So attacks all enemies, places a decreased speed debuff and decreased attack on all allies for 2 turns, places steals 30% of the target defense, and this effect cannot be resisted for targets under any buffs. This damage is inflicted by the skill and it's increased for 10 for each gold stack, gold-plated layer. Now gold-plated is a new buff that this boss will do for himself. Now, obviously, he's stealing turn meter. Most likely, will be 5 allies in a battle. And that's basically an instant turn, right? Because it's going to steal 150 ignore turn meter. And that's basically a nearly full go. It's very, very fast. So it'd be interesting to see. He's also going to hit harder for each gold plated. So you want to be breaking that gold plated as much as possible. Then he has another skill here as a 3. Places 5 layers of gold plated, and each layer is equivalent to 7%. So it's basically like a shield, and he's putting a shield. He's putting like a 10% shield on himself, which is crazy. And whenever a layer is destroyed, the damage dealt by whatever other value of the gold plated layer also deals damage to the enemies equivalent to the 5% of the gold plated value. So the bigger the shields, the more damage you're going to receive. And it fills the turn meter by 10% for each gold plated that's destroyed. Whereas under gold plated layers, he cannot evade. So he can't evade, right, if he's under gold plated, which is interesting. That might be a strategy in there to counter him a little bit. Then he has his passives. He has a 10% chance of invading a enemy skill and its effects. So it's like CC and crowd control and whatnot. Can't really crowd control him, but you know what I mean. and then increases the speed by 5 and has a chance to evade by 2 each time he's under at least 1 gold plated. This will stack up to 200 speed and 50% evasion, so it'll be 200 and 210 speed in total and a 60% chance to evade. He's immune to all types of CC, so you can't do that, and you will get a damage increase on your champions and a damage mitigation if you're like 5-star and above, and you do receive a damage reduction if you have a blessing that's under 3 because of the passive. Really kind of crazy with that ability. He's also immune to decreased speed and turn meter effects, which is interesting. He's also immune to, that's about it actually. You can't sheep him either. The sheep is not there. It's been confirmed in the content creator chat. You can't do anything like that. So it's an interesting one. He's immune to turn meter effects. The next boss isn't. So, you know, turn meter is not really going to do anything. Decreased speed, slow him down, not going to do anything as well. So the usual buffs that we use on champion bosses to get the advantage is being countered. So we're kind of interested to see what we can do. I think Marius will be big here, because I think 9P's Marius is going to just ruin this boss a little bit, but it'll be interesting to see. And then we have the next boss. So on the E1, attack all enemies, deals 50% pure damage, equivalent to the 5% of the target's max HP per buff on them. Has a 50% chance of placing decreased attack as well. So you'll want to be keeping your boss minimum like a bit like Chimera, but it's not going to be a strip ability. And you want to be trying to avoid being buffing up so you don't get more damage against you. Then on the E2, attack one enemy, places a stun debuff for one turn. Will attack all remaining enemies if the stun debuff was in place. So if you block the stun, he's gonna do AoE. If we let him do the stun, it decreases the turn meter on all enemies without a stun by 30. So it will just decrease your turn meter. Right, it won't do a hit. As long as I'm reading that correctly. Then on the A3 is called Feeding Time. I'll summon a mini Basilisk to the battle who will digest the champion with the highest critical damage for 4 turns, and HP is 20 equivalent to 20% of the HP defense, and the resistance will be the same. At the start of the turn, the boss turn will deal some damage 25% of the target's current HP. And after 4 turns, or when it's defeated, the target is removed. So it's a bit like one of the dragons on the Doom Tower. You beat one of the minions, you get to reset your team. So it'll be quite important to focus on the mini boss, get rid of him, get your champion back. Obviously, it takes the highest critical damage, so you could build like a support champion with the highest critical damage, for example, or use a critical damage buff to take this. So you will have to test the critical damage, because that could be a way that you can do that to control the Devour, which might be a cheese strategy there, or just some type of mini counter to this boss. It will place decreased speed on all enemies as well for 2 turns. Then he has a passive Fortune Feast. For every 3 buffs the champion receives, decreases the cooldown of the feeding time by 1 turn. So that's something you'll need to be careful of. At the start of the turn, the boss will be present to heals the boss by 25%. Heal reduction might be needed here. Right, heal reduction might get a big buff for sure, but it needs to be tested. Now on this boss, turn meter effects are just decreased to 50%. So potentially, like, taking decreased turn meter champions might be advantage to slow this boss down to help you more, which could be a strategy in itself as well. Maybe you could keep pushing his turn meter back, and then you don't need to let him take a turn as much. He's basically immune to all CC. You get damage increase as well if your awaken levels are a certain level, and again you receive a damage decrease if your blessings are a certain level, which is interesting across the board. A little bit disappointing, raid need to be like that, but you know, it's becoming a normal factor now with raid and this type of stuff. I'm expecting more news today to drop for Monday. Maybe we won't get it today, maybe we'll get it on Sunday or Saturday, but I would expect more teasers and whatnot. Let me know down in the comments, are you guys looking forward to the content or not? I don't like PvE content. I'm a little bit hyped about this content because I like the idea of using the champions I select and not going to be using epics and rares or booking useless legendaries like I had to for Faction Wars in Curse City. So for me, trying to look at it as a point of view, positive point of view, I think that's a good thing. I am actually going to say this now, but it'll be a very long time, but it's going to be added to the game at some point. I'm going to start saving potentially 90,000 medals for the new content to come as arena bonus. I don't think it'll happen for 2026, but we'll work on it. So I'm going to finish Curse City on my account and then I'll work towards that. And then we also have the path event going on for the Predator. Now I might do the Predator 4-star potentially if it's cheap and cheerful, but if it's too expensive then I won't be doing it at all. There's a 4-star Basalt in there, which would be interesting, 6-star Lift, Myth books and whatnot, but this is bait, right? They've done this perfectly timing because next week or the week after, most likely there is, I would say we'll probably hear something on the weekend. There'll be a Titan event with most likely a Titan event or Yeti event for 3 weeks, giving you a Christmas themed champion. So my recommendation is to save your shards for that, and obviously going after the Christmas fusion, which is going to be super key as well. And if you did do the fusion last one, remember to save his stuff. You can save romance for the shard events because there will be a lot of them. You can save your Broadmoors, maybe you start working on them now and whatnot to get them that's right, 350 points. Or if you can't access him, you know, get your relic keepers ready. This will take one of the summon events out of the fusion. It will be a classic fusion as well, so it's going to be a very hard fusion. You can get all these rare champions, by the way, in the campaign. So if you're doing champion training, start collecting these champions and whatnot. And there should be a new 2x primal this month as well, most likely. Last year there was one on Black Friday and there was 2 in December, so be ready for that as well. I think there will be 1 2x this year. I don't expect many Christmas packs and whatnot, and obviously I won't be spending any money in this game anyway. That is it from me today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. As usual, please remember to like, comment, subscribe. That's it from me today. We are streaming on YouTube tonight, so go ahead, check it out if you're into some live arena, finishing off seasons and grinding that out. But as usual, I've been Grim. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Peace.